Cell phones of the 2000s really just hit different. There were so many different kinds to choose from. You and your friends would all have different phones, and it would be fun to play with each other's phones because everything was so different. There were so many options, so many colors. There were buttons. I miss buttons. Bring back buttons on phones. And now everybody just has the same boring glass box. And don't get me wrong, I do love my iPhone, but I miss the personality of the phones of the 2000s. They were so much fun. So let's talk about a bunch of iconic 2000s cell phones. But first of all, happy Pride Month, everyone. If you have not seen my latest post on my post/community tab on my channel, please go check it out and read it. It is very important. But let's get into the first phone. I'm gonna go section by section of the decade, starting with the early 2000s, which is 2000 to 2003. And I fear if I don't mention this phone first, people are gonna flip out because it is most definitely one of the most iconic phones from the 2000s, and that is the T-Mobile Sidekick, of course. The very first Sidekick was released in 2002 and apparently was also known as the Danger Hip Top. Never in my life have I seen or heard anyone call the Sidekick the Danger Hip Top, but whatever. This is the first version that they released, and of course, the iconic screen would flip up in a circle. It wouldn't slide up, it would flip up, which was so much fun, and I loved it so much. They also had version 2, of course, which this is version 1 and version 2 next to each other, and oh my god, version 2 had the exclusive Juicy Couture exclusive Sidekick. This was officially a Juicy Couture Sidekick, and of course you could go get it bedazzled. Remember when you could go to the mall and like go to the kiosk or the little store that would bedazzle your phone for like $100, or you would do it yourself? Everyone was bedazzling their phones. I absolutely loved it. A bedazzled Juicy Sidekick, you could not get more cool. This was elite. Like, you were the coolest and probably richest kid in your school. This is the Juicy Sidekick without the rhinestones. It was pink, of course. I just loved how the screen flipped up. I thought that was so much fun. They also had some other different like exclusive designs with different designers or celebrities. So here's another one. I'm not sure what this one is, but next to the Juicy, oh, it's just so good. It's so cool. I would kill to have one of these nowadays. How fun would that be? And a regular one bedazzled with clear and black rhinestones. This is version 3, which is probably my most favorite version because it had the little rolly ball. Oh, I loved the little rolly ball. It flipped up. The buttons were so like perfect, bubbly, clicky buttons. My friend had this phone. I was completely jealous, and I loved to play monkey ball on it, especially with the little rolly ball. Oh, it was so good. Another look at version 3, they also had some specialty like celebrity designs or designer designs of the Sidekick 3. This is Diane von Furstenberg, I believe. It has like little lips around the screen. There's also this one for, what is it called? Lifted Research Group with a little green design. Then we have the Sidekick ID. I think the difference in this one was it was a little bit smaller and it came in some different fun colors. Then we have the Sidekick LX, and to be honest, I'm not exactly sure the difference on this one. I feel like maybe it was a little bit bigger, and they did have a Tony Hawk edition, which is so much fun. Another Sidekick LX, and then we have the Sidekick Slide, and this is really where it like drops off for me because now it no longer flips, it just slides up, which is zero fun if you ask me. Like, half the fun of the Sidekick is that it did a little flippy thing that no other phone did, but then they just turned it into a regular slide phone, which is nowhere near as fun if you ask me. This is the second Sidekick LX that they released in 2009, often called the LX 2009. And then lastly, in 2011, they did release the Sidekick 4G. I think this one also did slide and did not spin. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was the last Sidekick that they made. They might have re-released it in 2018, but that is unclear. I miss the Sidekick. Could you imagine like a Sidekick iPhone hybrid? Ooh, that would be so good. Our next phone is a Nokia phone. This is the 3310, and this came out in the year 2000, and this is the phone that's often referred to as the brick phone, where you could literally like run it over and it would be totally fine. Nokias, especially like the early Nokias, really stood up. Like, they were indestructible phones and a very classic late 90s, early 2000s phone for sure. The 3410, this came out in the year 2002. Very similar to the other one, a lot of very similar phones here, but a little bit different. Had different colors, different lights, different little sounds. If you looked up like the ringtones and the sounds that it would make, It's so nostalgic. And what I love about the old Nokia phones is you wouldn't get a case for your phone. Not that it needed it because they were like indestructible, but you could pop off like the outer shell and then put on different faceplates with different designs, which I don't know. It's just so early 2000s, late 90s. I love it. Now, I definitely can't go over every single Nokia phone because there is a ton. They made so many different phones and so many are very similar to each other. So I'm only gonna mention a few. Please don't be mad if I don't mention your favorite phone. And the first BlackBerry I have on my list is the 6710. This came out in 2002, and this is the first iteration of a BlackBerry that I feel like is that classic BlackBerry style where it has the bigger screen and then you have the full QWERTY keyboard underneath, which by the way is like a classic computer keyboard where you have all the letters in the computer keyboard order and each button is its own letter. So if I say QWERTY keyboard, that's what that means. I feel like this is the most iconic style for BlackBerry, although again, like Nokia, BlackBerry made a lot of phones and a lot of them are very similar, but this is like the first most iconic in my mind, and it's still got that like pixelated black and white screen, which is so funny to me. Then the 7290, which came out in 2003, and this has the actual color screen, so a little fancier here. And it came in a blue color as well. A lot of these phones had lots of different colors to choose from, obviously depending on the model. Then we have the Nokia N-Gage. This is a crazy phone to me. This came out in 2003 and is specifically a gaming phone, which is why it looks like some sort of game controller or console thing. I can't imagine using this to text or just like talking on it. It just feels like it'd be ridiculous. Nokia also made a lot of kind of like out there crazy phones, and this is definitely one of them. How would you text on this? You have to like hold it on the side? I don't know, man, but I feel like your older brother in the early 2000s, if you had one, probably really wanted this phone. It feels like an older brother phone. This is the Motorola V70. This came out in 2002, and this phone is pretty cool because the little front piece spun in a full circle all the way around and then would cover up the buttons. Look, like phones are so unique. Like all these phones, so unique, so different. I love that. Like some of them might be weird and not super functionable for what you need them for, but you have to admit, they were fun. They were creative for sure. So you have a little circle screen here with your buttons and then the little front piece would spin around. I love it. Then we have the Nextel Chirp. Do y'all remember these? I couldn't find an exact date, and it was definitely like a variety of phones that came out from the late 90s into the early 2000s, but these were walkie-talkie or push-to-talk phones, and they made this very specific chirp noise. Do you remember that? It's so specific. I feel like a lot of, I don't know, contractors and construction workers and people who worked outside had these kind of phones because they could like walkie-talkie to each other. And I remember hearing this chirp just like out in public places. Like my family didn't have these phones, but it's a very specific nostalgic sound that I totally forgot about. And they made a few different iterations of these phones in different styles, but this like yellow and black, very like industrial strength looking phone is the one I remember the most. Now this one may look like a normal flip phone with a extendable antenna, but in fact this is the Samsung SPH A600 that came out in 2003, and it twisted and turned in all different funky ways. So the front of this flip phone would literally spin around so you could have a screen on the front, specifically I think to take pictures, but also probably just to see like incoming messages and calls on the front screen. It did have like a plain solid front when it was, I guess, closed up normally, but would swivel around so that you could see the front screen on the outside, which again, so innovative and fun. This is the Motorola V300, which either came out in 2003 or 2004. And I had to mention this phone because my dad had this phone, and I remember it so specifically because he handed it down to me when he was done with it to just like play with it and have as a toy phone. And I remember the texture of the outside was like kind of this matte rubbery feel, very specific to me. I loved how the buttons were different shapes. It was just fun to play with. I loved playing with old phones. My parents always gave me their old ones, and I just thought it was so cool. And I would carry them around to pretend like I had a phone because I wanted a cell phone desperately until I got one and begged for one for many, many years, but I would definitely carry around these phones that only called 911, had absolutely no service, but I felt cool just having it with me. Oh my God. And do you remember when a lot of cell phones would come with docks? Especially in the 90s, not like a charging cable. It would have a whole dock that it had to sit on to charge, but the charge lasted for like 4 to 5 days. Crazy. And then there's a bunch more generic flip phones that came out from the early 2000s through the mid 2000s from all different brands and carriers, and I just simply can't go through them all. I'm very sorry. I'm sure your phone was very cool, but just like kind of basic ones that look like this. You know, every brand carried multiple versions of this back then, and they all had this T9 texting is what it's called, which it took forever, but it was laid out like a regular number keypad, and each number had multiple letters on the button, so you would have to press the button over and over and over just to get to the letter you were looking to use. So yes, texting used to take a very long time, and I've done it more recently, and it is tricky, and it's very annoying. I'm very grateful for QWERTY keyboards now. Now moving on to the next section of the decade, which is the mid-2000s, which is 2004 through 2006. Of course, have to mention right off the bat, in 2004, the Motorola Razr came out. This is the most iconic flip phone of them all. I dare you to try to argue with me about this, especially in the US, which is where I'm from. This is definitely the most iconic flip phone from the 2000s. It was so fun. Of course, I wanted one so bad. I think everybody wanted a razr because they were just popular and fun. And they came in all different colors. The inside was fun. The buttons looked cool. I remember the texture because my dad had a silver one and I was like, oh, my dad has a razr. How cool. And I love the color variety. Oh, all the different colors that phones came in was so much fun. I would love to get a purple one of these nowadays. And there's just nothing better than closing a flip phone. If you're mad at somebody, like flipping closed your flip phone is the same as like angrily hanging up the receiver of the landline. Oh, it was the best. And yes, I know there is like a modern flip phone, smartphone razr. That's this one on this side. They have a screen to look like the actual razr, which is on the left, or I guess the original razr. And I mean, it's just not the same. When brands try to make like a modern version of something, it's cool, but it's just never gonna beat the original, you know? And a moment for the hot pink one that everybody loved. Next is the Sony Ericsson W800i, which came out in 2005. And I love the colors on this, the white and orange. It just looks cool. And Sony Ericssons were specifically phones and an MP3 player. A lot of brands would try to like pull people in with, oh, it's not just a phone, it's an MP3 player. It's a really nice camera. It's a mini TV, like whatever their shtick was to get people in, because back in the day, we would carry around our phone, our iPod, our digital camera, our little gaming system, like whatever it is, you'd have to carry everything. So pre-smartphones, they were slowly trying to like integrate that into phones, and 2000s phones cameras were not great. So that was definitely a perk, because this one looks like it has that digital camera style camera maybe. So maybe it was like, oh, it's an MP3 player and it has a nicer camera, because then you didn't have to carry around your digital camera. But definitely like dominating Sony Ericsson was that it's an MP3 player. That was part of their shtick, and I just think this one looks cool. I like the colors. In 2006, we have the BlackBerry Pearl, which of course came in pink, and this one had a QWERTY keyboard, but it was like a different style of QWERTY keyboard where you had to learn to specialty text. I'll get into the annoyance of this like QWERTY keyboard where each number has like 2 letters instead of 1, or like it wasn't T9 texting. It was annoying. Okay, I had a phone like that and it was very annoying, but people loved the BlackBerry Pearl. It had the little spinny ball, very cool. Of course, different color variations. BlackBerry was super popular, and I'm surprised BlackBerry isn't like a dominating phone anymore, because they were a big thing. And the shiny red one, there were so many different red phones. I feel like the main colors of phones were like black, white, silver, and this bright shiny red. The LG Envy, the first one, came out in 2006, and this was a crazy popular phone at the time, especially because it was basically like 2 phones in one, or like a phone and a mini computer in one. I mean, a lot of phones were like leaning into that mini computer in your pocket at the time, but on the outside, when it was closed, it was like a regular phone with a number of buttons, but then you flipped it open and you had another screen and a full QWERTY keyboard where each button had its own letter, like truly like a phone and then a little like mini computer. This was so cool, very high tech. People loved the Envy. Again, fun colors. Looks like we have a digital camera style camera as well. Then the LG Chocolate. This came out in 2006 and another very popular phone. Okay, I need to stop saying that because like almost all of these were very popular phones at the time. I remember my friend having one of these. This was another that was supposed to like double as a MP3 player of sorts, like a phone plus an MP3 player. This is a slightly different version. This might be like the Chocolate 2, but it had the same kind of circle design that an iPod did, which I feel like a lot of brands were leaning into. That was the style of MP3 players people wanted, but it was a little slide up phone to reveal your numbers, your T9 texting. These light up buttons are so cool. Here's a black version of the phone and of course a pink version. Everybody loved the pink versions of phones. The Motorola Pebble, oh my God, this came out in 2005. This was definitely one of my favorites. I thought this was the coolest, funnest phone. I just loved that it was this perfect little like pebble shape. It was like a perfect little oval. The packaging was either like a soft matte touch or it was a really glossy, shiny finish. Again, my friend had this one and I was so jealous. The inside looked cool. The inside kind of reminds me of the Razr, but I might have picked this one over the Razr at the time. I just loved the shape and the design and all the different colors was so much fun. Here's a shiny version of the phone. Oh, such a good phone. And I feel like it also had like a magnetic closure. When you closed it, it would kind of like magnetized to itself. Am I crazy or was that a thing? Give me a Pebble today. I want it. We have the Motorola Razr. This came out in 2006 and at the time I thought this was a knockoff of the Razr, but it is in fact the same company and I guess was just like a different version of the Razr they were trying to put out. Came in some fun shiny colors. But like look how small phones were back then. Like seeing this in an adult's hand, it's so tiny. I feel like the goal was to make such a tiny phone and now phones are huge compared to this. It's just so funny to see this. Like how did we use these all the time? How did we text on these things? Like such tiny phones and tiny buttons. So shiny, very mirror-like. I bet a bunch of people loved that it was very mirror-like. This is the Nokia N90. It came out in 2005 and this is another one that just like spun and twisted in all fancy ways. Like looking at this, immediate first glance, it looks like a 2000's camcorder, but it is in fact a cell phone. Oh, it's not loading. There it is. A cell phone, a flip phone, but twisted and turned in all different directions to do its fancy things, which was to be a camera slash video camera. This is it closed. It does look a little chunky with like this top piece, but that's how it would spin around in all different directions. And you could spin the screen in different directions so that you could record or take pictures with it like you would a camcorder, but it was your cell phone and it fit in your pocket. This is the Helio Ocean. It came out in 2006, and I think this is the first phone on my list that slides both ways. It goes up and you have the regular number pad and T9 texting, but if you slid it to this side, you had a full QWERTY keyboard. Again, we loved this. We ate this up. This was so much fun. People loved the Helio Ocean. I don't know if they made any other phones like the company Helio. I think I'm saying that right. I hope I am, but a lot of people mentioned this when I did my series on phones on TikTok like a couple of years ago and I had to add it into another part. Everybody loved this phone, but I think this is the only one they really made, which is funny because it was a really popular phone. This is the Sanyo Katana. It came out in 2006. This was a flip phone with T9 texting. I think this is like a slightly different version, maybe like the Katana 2, where just they changed it a little bit with the aesthetics. Another look at the Katana, and then we have the Motorola Sliver. This came out in 2005, and this has like a very similar keypad to the Razr because it's the same company, but this was just like a flat bar phone, I guess. No slides, no flips, just everything right there. Of course, they had to make all the different styles to appeal to everybody. Then the Nokia 3220, which came out in 2004, another Nokia phone, but this one had these fun rubber bumpers that lit up and it would like flash or dance in different colors. When certain people would call you, you could like set a certain ringtone and that ringtone would play and the lights would like dance. Oh, that's so much fun. I wish my phone did that. I wish it had little like fun party lights on it. Like it's just so much fun and they took that fun away from us. This is the Palm Trio 650. It came out in 2004. This was very similar to like a BlackBerry. I feel like a lot of like working adults wanted this phone because you could do a lot of like emails and stuff. It came with a stylus, and you have the full QWERTY keyboard at the bottom. And this was made by the same company as like the Palm Pilot, which people were used to carrying around, which had like your planner, your calendar, your contacts, your notes, but now you had it with your phone all together. And again, like multiple Palm Trios that all kind of look the same, but are technically slightly different. The LG Fusic, this came out in 2006, and it very much resembles an iPod because this is another one that was like an MP3 dominating phone. You had the little circle on the front with like the play and skip, just like an iPod did, but this was also a phone, and it had different faceplates so you could change the color, which I love. I think that's so fun, just like built in whatever color you feel like that day. And it was a flip phone with T9 texting. Have to show the pink one, of course. I'm actually not a pink person, but I remember how popular pink phones were in the 2000s. Like, it was so cool to have a pink phone. This is possibly the teeniest phone on my list, which is the Pantech C3000, which came out in 2006, and it is truly the teeniest, tiniest little flip phone that you ever did see. It's so freaking cute. I literally want to get this and put it on a keychain. Look how small. This is the Sony Ericsson P910, which came out in 2004. This is another one that's giving like Palm Pilot, Blackberry. It had a little stylus. It was touchscreen. When you closed the little bottom flap, it only covered part of the screen, and you had a keypad and T9 texting there. But then when you opened it, you had a full QWERTY keyboard. But I have to say, I don't remember ever like playing with this phone at the store. I love to go to the phone stores and play with phones. But I feel like holding this little flat panel and like the heavy phone, like the little panel that flips looks so flimsy. I feel like it would be hard to hold and text from it. I don't know. Did anyone have this phone? Can you weigh in on how easy or hard this was to use? The Samsung D600, this came out in 2005. This is your like classic slide up phone, T9 texting. I included this one because I thought it was a phone my dad had, but it's not. You'll see that one in a little bit, but I thought I would include it nonetheless. Then the Nokia 3250, this came out in 2005, and what do you know? Another Nokia phone that likes to spin around and do different things. So the little bottom part of the phone where the numbers are would spin completely around to reveal the music player buttons, which would otherwise be on the back of the phone, which is probably kind of funny looking. But so you could have like the music player, and then you could spin it around and you could have your numbers for calling and texting. Now we're on to the late 2000s section, which is 2007 through 2009, and this is the longest section, so buckle up. First is the Samsung Juke. This came out in 2007, and this is another teeny tiny phone. I think the other phone is technically smaller, but this is such a tiny, thin phone. It was often referred to as the switchblade phone, and it was just literally this thin little bar, and it flipped open, similar to how the sidekick flipped open, like flipped up to reveal the keypad and T9 texting, and this was another like MP3 player phone. It came in some fun colors, like this blue teal color, and just look how tiny. I remember someone in my middle school having one of these, and it was just the tiniest, weirdest phone to me. The LG Shine, this came out in 2007, at least in the US. Some of these phones may have been released earlier in other countries, but I'm going off the US because that's where I'm from. The T-Mobile Shine was the mirror phone. It was all kinds of shiny on the front. It was a slide phone with T9 texting, and then had that really shiny front to be like a mirror. And that was definitely one of the selling points, is like, oh, you have an actual mirror on your phone. Oh, and I found this like fun gold scrolly design one as well. This little slide phone is the phone my dad had. I remember he had this phone for so long. It is the Samsung SGH T429. It came out in 2007, and it just slid up to have T9 texting. This was very much a dad phone, and my dad had it. We got the BlackBerry Curve in 2007. This is a little more updated than the last one we saw, with still the QWERTY keyboard and the little fun rolly ball in a like slightly updated version of it. We got the BlackBerry Pearl Flip in 2008. This is very similar to the original BlackBerry Pearl, but now just in a flip phone style, still with the weird texting where it's like 2 letters per button. I hate that, but you did have a flip phone with a rolly ball. Another look at that phone. And then we have the LG Envy NV2. This came out in 2008 and was a super popular phone for sure. Definitely more popular than the first one, but it was a similar concept where on the front you had your number keypad, T9 texting with a really tiny screen, but then you flipped it open and you had your full QWERTY keyboard in a different screen. How high tech, how cool was this? I love a flip open or slide open QWERTY keyboard. Here is the first one in the silver compared to the second one in the red. Such a cool one. And then we also have the LG Envy Touch, also known as the LG Voyager, I believe. When I was looking up the Voyager versus the LG Touch, they look the same. Very confused. It might have just been different names for different carriers, but this came out either in 2007 or 2009. I think there was like a first version in 2007, like a second version in 2009. It got a little confusing on the research for this one, but this is the LG Envy Touch or the Voyager. See, this is like a slightly different version. See the buttons, but the same phone. So one of these is like the first and one of these is the second, but you had the touch screen on the front and then it flipped open to a full QWERTY keyboard. So not just the buttons on the front anymore. Now you have a full like touch screen getting into that smartphone phase, but still flipped open with buttons. I love this. Why can't I have something like this nowadays? Touchscreen in the front, buttons on the inside. I miss buttons. It's just cool. I love flip open, flip phones, slide phones, flip sidekick phone. So much fun. This is the HTC Dream, also known as the T-Mobile G1. It came out in 2008 and is apparently the very first Android phone, like the very first official Android phone. And on the front, I don't know if this was touchscreen, maybe it was, but you had a little rolly ball and then it would not flip open, but like slide open. I actually remember playing with this in the store and it had like kind of an aggressive slide, like it would click into place, I guess, when you slid it up, but you had your full QWERTY keyboard underneath. See, Android. And then the Samsung Alias. Oh my God, so cool. This came out in 2007 and this was a double flip phone. What do I mean by that? I'll explain. So you could flip it up sideways and you could flip it up like normally open, like a regular flip phone. It flipped both ways. How fun is that? Like it looked like a normal flip phone, had a little screen on the front, but you could flip it open like this. And there was like printing on the buttons. So like the numbers would be facing this way and the letters would be facing the other way, depending on how you're using it. So you'd flip it up like this, or you could close it and flip it up sideways and it would open to a QWERTY keyboard. This one is so cool, so fun. This is the front of the Alias, and then in 2009 we got the Alias 2, a slightly more upgraded version, still the fun double flip, but even better now because it had like these fancy changing buttons. Like when you flipped it up this way, you would have the like lights underneath the button. You would have like your number keypad and your arrows, and you closed it and you flipped it sideways and the little lights would change and you'd have a full QWERTY keyboard. So you didn't have to like be confused by the printing on the buttons being two different things. It would just change depending on how you were using it. How freaking cool is that? Definitely a phone I would want today because that's so fun and innovative. The LG Rumor came out in 2007. This was a very popular slide phone, like a pretty basic slide phone at the time, where when it was closed, it was just like a regular little phone with your number keypad, but then you just slid it up and you had that full QWERTY keyboard inside. So cool. And this also came in a bunch of really fun bright colors, which I love. This is what it looks like closed. And the Rumor 2, just slightly different. Then this might not be an iconic phone to you, but it is to me because this is the very first cell phone I ever got. This is the Samsung T229 that came out in 2008, and I got it for my 13th birthday, and I was so excited to finally have a phone. It was a flip phone with T9 texting. I didn't care that it wasn't some fancy phone. I just wanted a phone, and I thought this one was so cute. I'm really glad that I actually got to have a flip phone before like smartphones came to be. This was just, I just remember getting it and like texting my sister all day, and I thought it was the coolest thing. Remember the T-Mobile like My Faves? Is that what it was called? Where you had like the 5 little bubbles that you had like unlimited calls and texting to? What was also cool about this phone is it had like a fancy feature that if you opened the camera when it was opened and then closed it, the little front screen would become a front camera. Like it was black and white and pixelated, but you could at least take like a selfie and make sure you were in the shot, which was pretty cool, and none of my friends had, and I just love this. It was like sleek and cute, and I don't know what happened to it. I would have never gotten rid of it. I'm hoping it's at my parents' house, but very cute little first phone. But this was my second phone. This was just a mess. This is the T-Mobile Shadow. It first came out in 2007 and the second one came out in 2009. This phone sucked. I hated this phone. It did have a little spinny wheel, which was cool, but this is the weird keyboard that I was talking about, like the BlackBerry Pearl had, where you had to like learn to special text because it wasn't a regular QWERTY keyboard and it wasn't T9 texting. There was like 2 letters per button for some reason, which was not helpful. None of my friends knew how to text on this phone because it was just weird and you had to like specialty learn how to use it. It was such a pain in the ass phone. This was a hand-me-down phone that I got from somebody else because I was like, oh, cool, a slide phone. Now I have like something fancier than a flip phone because flip phones were like going out of style. But this was a pain in the ass and I should have just stuck with my flip phone because I think I went through like 10 of these and I didn't break it myself. It broke on its own and I would have to call T-Mobile and be like, it's not working again. Like the battery wouldn't stay charged. It would only work when it was charging. A button would stop working. Like it would just have so many issues and they'd be like, yeah, we're getting a lot of calls about this issue. So they would send me a new one because it was their fault and not mine. So I went through like 10 of these. And even at one point, the battery wouldn't hold a charge. So they were like, we're going to send you an extra large battery. And I was like, okay. So in the mail, I get this giant battery, like extra wide. You had to put it in the phone and it came with a new back. So like normally the back of the phone would be like flat, right? But now I had this battery that stuck out like this. So I had this special cover to cover the battery and the back of the phone now went like this. And it was just so ridiculous and so annoying. And it still kept breaking. So they finally did send me the second one, I guess, is this one, which had like a blue and white ombre back, spinny wheel, same annoying buttons. This one was better, but this was such an annoying phone. Did anyone else have this phone and hate it? After that, I got my first smartphone, which was a Samsung Vibrant, but we're not talking about 2010s phones, just 2000s phones. This is the Sony Ericsson W995, which came out in 2009. Again, another like MP3 player phone. This one slid up to reveal T9 texting, but like if you look at the back of this phone, it totally looks, actually this is the front of the phone. It looks like the back of a digital camera, but it's not. It's the phone. It's just the style design that they went with. And this was like an MP3 specific phone, but I guess it had like a slightly fancier camera, kind of, because does this not look like a regular digital camera? It totally does. And I love the fun shiny colors. I feel like it came with headphones too. God, do you remember when phones came with headphones? What happened to that? This is the LG Lotus. It came out in 2008 and what a fun phone. This was a perfect little square. It was so pretty. When you flipped it open, you had a full QWERTY keyboard. I loved this phone and it was so pretty with like the flower design that was built onto the phone. Absolutely love it. Loved that it was square. Loved the QWERTY keyboard. There's this red one too with a like paisley design. It had some like buttons on the front for the MP3 player. It's so freaking fun. I don't know why the square phone just like really hits for me. I think this is the Lotus 2 they put out a little bit later that had a touchscreen on the front and you could like, when you flipped it up, the camera would move so you could take selfies, still a QWERTY keyboard. I just love this design. Purple, I love purple, with the little scrolly print is so pretty. This is another one I really want today. When I was a kid, I would go into T-Mobile and beg and plead my parents to get me a cell phone. And this phone was the free phone for a long time at T-Mobile. This is the Samsung Gravity and it came out in 2008. I swear it might have come out before then because I remember begging and pleading for this phone for so long. It was like a basic slide phone that you slid open to a QWERTY keyboard. I loved the blue and white color. I don't know why my parents got me the red flip phone for my first phone. Maybe that was the free phone at the time and no longer this one. I don't know because I wanted this one so badly. I'm still a little bummed that I never had this phone. I wish I had gone from like the red flip phone to this one instead of the shadow nonsense because I just freaking loved the Samsung Gravity. I don't know why, it just really stuck with me. This is the Gravity 2, just the blue and white one. I wanted it so badly. The LG Venus, this one came out in 2007 and was a slide up phone that looks like it had some fun light up buttons on the front. The LG Neon or the Web Slider, this came out in 2008 and was another really popular slide phone, basic slide phone, still really fun. It came in these really fun bright colors, hence the name Neon, like orange and green and blue. Another fun one I would have loved to have. Look how bright and fun. Oh, I love the colors. I miss all the fun bright colors and the uniqueness. The BlackBerry Bold, this one came out in 2008. Very similar to the last one, but now I believe that little square was like touchscreen kind of, like you could very barely slide your finger around to use it as a mouse instead of it having like the little rolly ball. I think because there was a lot of issues with the rolly ball falling out or people picking the rolly ball out of their phone. Again, BlackBerry Bolds, all slightly different, but all really look the same. The Samsung Propel came out in 2008. This is another slide up phone with a full QWERTY keyboard, little tiny buttons though, but I love that it came in a bunch of different fun colors, and I love this design that you see when you slide it open, like such a fun little hidden thing, a blue one here, and this specific colorway. Now, don't get mad at me when I say this, but to me, the Propel is a mom phone. And I think that's only because like my one specific friend as a kid, her mom, I remember her having a bunch of different cool phones and this was one of them. So in my brain, it was just a mom phone because my friend's mom had them. And I think she had this one, and that's like all I can think about when I see it. The Pantech Impact, this came out in 2009, and this is such a cool one that I would have loved and would love to have today. It came in pink. The front, when it was closed, had these like fun light up buttons. I just love the little like light buttons. It's like kind of touchscreen, but it's still buttons, and they lit up and it just looked cool and futuristic. But then you flipped it open and you had like this other screen with the full QWERTY keyboard. I love this. Like, look how cool it looks with the little light up buttons. I don't know if the buttons change depending on what you were doing, but this was just a really cool phone and one that I like. Are you starting to get the vibe of the type of phones that I like? The Samsung Comeback came out in 2009. We have like your regular keypad on the front, but when you flipped it open, you have their full QWERTY keyboard. This one feels like it was maybe a little hard to use because you kind of had the chunky sides, because when you like flipped it open, the whole thing didn't flip open, just kind of the middle section of the phone. Was this like chunky and hard to use? I don't know, but I do, again, appreciate the fun colors. Here's the inside of the white and red one. Oh, and you already know I love this one. This is the Nokia Twist. This came out in 2009 and it's a little square, so I have to love it. It looks like a little keychain. How freaking cute. And it spun open. It didn't slide open. It had like a fun little spin like the sidekick kind of did. And it spun around this access on the corner, which I literally do think is like actually a hole. So you probably could actually put it on your keychain. But what a cute little phone. Maybe, I don't know if this one was touchscreen. I'm sorry, but it was square. And that's all I care about. Here's the back of that phone, and here is in a fun green color. Just so cute. I love that it's square. The Motorola Crave came out in 2008, and this is a very nifty futuristic looking phone because I don't know if you can tell from here, this is a flip phone, but the whole front is clear. So when you open it like a flip phone, this whole top part is clear except for like the little speaker, so you can talk on a flip phone, and then the inside is touchscreen, a little small touchscreen, but was a touchscreen flip phone nonetheless, and just very futuristic and cool looking. Although, looking at this picture, if you were texting like sideways to get the QWERTY keyboard, I feel like the top part of the phone would be in the way and it would be like annoying to text with. I don't know, let me know. Then we have the Motorola Jewel. This came out in 2008, and what a pretty flip phone. So chic. It's got these beveled edges to really look like a jewel, and I love the purple. Of course, purple is my favorite color, and it just looks fancy, pretty, very girly in this style. But they also had this style of the jewel where it was like a shiny, non-beveled sides, and the front was like all one color, and then you would have like the music player could pop up or the time, and you could kind of click through it on the front of the phone. So there was this style as well, but then like also the beveled edge style, so a couple different versions of the Jewel. Such a pretty and fun and sleek phone, kind of similar to the Pebble in its design, if you ask me. This is the Samsung Flip Shot, and it came out in 2007, and why does it look like the Pixar lamp? And it's turning its head to look at me. It's just so goofy looking. This is very Nokia-esque, but it's not. It is Samsung, and it twisted and turned in all different ways, so you could use it as a camera or a video camera. It did look like a normal flip phone when it was all closed, and the back really looks like an actual digital camera. Did the lens go in and out? You'll have to let me know on that one if you had this phone. But like the back, like when you opened it and then flipped it around and closed it, like it truly was a digital camera. Like this was the back of the phone and this was the screen. Crazy. So cool though, and was also like a flip phone. I think this one is really fun and just quirky, and I would love to see some pictures from this. Like, did it actually take good pictures? Was it worth it to get this phone, or was it just like slightly better than your average flip phone? The Pantech Matrix came out in 2008. What happened to Pantech? Do they still make phones? They made a bunch of cool phones. The Matrix was another one that slid up to have your regular number keypad, and then you could slide it to the side and you get your QWERTY keyboard. Again, love the fun colors, of course. I love the fun, different, unique colors that they used to give us, but absolutely no longer. Here's what it looked like closed, but I always wondered, did people try to force it and open both the number keypad and the letter keypad at the same time? Because that's all I wanted to do. And apparently, yes. It was possible if you had a phone like this to open both at the same time. I don't know if this broke it or it would get mad at you, but technically you could open them at the same time, although I'm sure it was not advised. The intrusive thoughts won on this one. This is the Motorola Rocker EM28 that came out in 2008, and it was a flip phone, but of course was like also an MP3 player. Love the fun colors. I love when I find actual pictures of the phone to share with you that somebody is like posting. So thank you to people who post these online so that we can share in the nostalgia. But this was a fun, colorful flip phone. This is what it looked like on the front. You could like kind of tap through your songs, you know, pause, skip, etc. There were also several different versions of the Rocker over the years. We have the flip phone. There was this fun one in the middle that has like touch screen buttons, and like the lights would change to be the different buttons. Like it would be a keypad and then it would change to the music player. That is so much fun. And then we also have a little slide phone on the other side. The Samsung Upstage was a weird one. This came out in 2007 and it was a double-sided phone. So this picture, you're seeing each side of the phone, and you had to get like specialty cases for it. I mean, you kind of had to get specialty cases for all phones, but like it was this thin, flat little bar, and one side was the phone with a little skinny screen, and the other side was your MP3 player, another MP3 dominating phone here. But like you literally had each side. I mean, the screen for the phone part is so small. Texting must have been very annoying, but then you would just flip it to the other side and you have your MP3 player. Then we have the LG VX9400, which came out in 2007, and this phone was specifically sold to be a phone, but also a mini TV to watch TV and movies. So it had a little screen that flipped up like the sidekick, but it didn't like cover all of the buttons. As you can see, you have the arrows at the bottom, but then it just flips up so you can have like your little sideways TV screen to reveal the keypad underneath, and you were like legitimately supposed to like hold this and watch your shows, which I mean, I know we watch stuff on our phone now, but it just seems like so tiny and awkward to me. I mean, compared to what we have now. Interesting concept for sure, and you might recognize it because it was actually in the Iron Man movie. The Palm Centro came out in 2007. I love this one. I love the colors, I love the stylus, and the little buttons. Oh my God. How fun and cute is this phone? It came in pink, and the little buttons, they just look so bubbly and clicky and perfect. Tiny, but just absolutely phenomenal. I love everything about this phone. I want the blue one. I love the buttons. Some other colors of the Palm Centro and the back, maybe you recognize. This is the LG Xenon. This came out in 2009, and this was another pretty basic slide phone, but the front was touchscreen, and then you had the full QWERTY keyboard. And just look at this picture. I had to show this because look how tiny this phone is in someone's hand, especially comparing this, like, I'm guessing adult male's thumb to the buttons. It looks so hard to text with. The buttons are so tiny. It must have people must have messed up texting on this constantly. This is the Xenon closed, definitely getting into our smartphone touchscreen era here, but I don't know why we got rid of keyboards. I feel like that's a downgrade if you ask me. Bring back buttons. Is that the 4th time I've said this? I just really want to drill it into people's heads that we should have buttons on our phones again. This is the Pantech Duo. It came out in 2007. This is another one that slid up to have the number keypad and sideways to have the full QWERTY keyboard. Another one I'm sure people try to force to go different ways, and that's probably why it was called the Duo, because it did slide up each direction. And I know I've called phones mom phones. This is a dad phone. This is giving dad phone. I'm really surprised my dad didn't have this. This looks like a phone he would have had. The Motorola Aura came out in 2008, and this is such a cool, futuristic looking phone, very similar to that one we talked about in the beginning that looks kind of like this, but this one is like a more upgraded version. You have a little circle screen, and the front part did go in a circle. It reveals the numbers when you slide it open. But like, how cool and fancy does this look? It just looks very futuristic, but like futuristic for the time. Like in the 2000s, this felt futuristic, and now I guess it doesn't, but it still does look really cool. This one's got some fancy rhinestones, fancy rhinestone edition, just very, very cool. And look, someone made their screen to look like an old-timey, like foggy clock. That is so cool. Again, the personality hits different. I love it. I love the customization. I love how everything was different. Oh, so fun. This is the Sony Ericsson S500i. It came out in 2007, and this one specifically in this colorway is an older brother phone. Like, this totally looks like a phone an older brother in the 2000s had. Did your older brother have this? Because that's all I can think about when I look at this one. There was also this pretty exclusive like floral design on this phone and this fun purple color, and it was just like a regular slide up phone. Ooh, and a shiny gold one. I don't know why it was shaped like this, but it came in shiny gold. And now that I'm looking at it, does this phone not have a camera? What? For 2007, to make a phone without a camera, maybe it did. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was on the back of the slide up thing. That makes more sense. Okay, so it was like hidden when you closed it and you had to slide it open to take a photo. I'm guessing that's how it worked, because I can't imagine them putting out a phone in 2007 with no camera. This is the at&t Quick Fire. This came out in 2008. Another slide up QWERTY keyboard, but it kind of had these like chunky sides. Like, this phone overall just looks kind of like chunky to me. So you have these little edges you had to like text around, and again, teeny tiny buttons. Like, I miss buttons, but they need to be bigger buttons, like usable buttons. Bubbly buttons for sure though. The Samsung Intensity, also known as the Double Take, this came out in 2009. Another fun but basic little slide phone. So you have the number keypad and then you slide it open, and you have your cute little QWERTY keyboard. Some slightly different versions, I think, here. Yeah, this one's like slightly different with the square button now instead of the round. This is a cool one. This is the Sony Ericsson Equinox, which came out in 2009, which to come out with a flip phone in 2009 does feel like a little bit behind. But this one was really cool because on the front, you had this little circle light. It's pink in this picture, and you could change that circle light to like whatever color you wanted and set the color to different contacts. So if someone was calling you, like your dad would be blue and your mom would be pink, for example, or whatever. And so when they called, it'd be like dad calling and it would light up blue. I think that's so fun. I love the customization. I love the little color circle. This is the Palm Pixie. It came out in 2009. We have some lovely little bubbly looking buttons here, but they do look very small. This little like fancy base charger where it kind of like laid against it. And then I also am gonna go ahead and mention the Palm Pre, which also came out in 2009. Very similar. This was just like a flat phone, and this is like the same thing, but it slides up and it has a touchscreen on the front, but it slides up to reveal the cute little bubbly buttons, and they all have this like little curve to them for some reason. And last but not least, the Samsung Gloss. This came out in 2009, and again, I love it because it's a perfect little square phone. How cute. And the pink with the flowers, this is adorable, flipped open to have the QWERTY keyboard. This is so freaking cute. The gold with the flowers. I just love the little square phones. That was over like 70 phones, lots of phones, but I'm sure I missed a ton of great ones. So I'm really sorry if I didn't mention your favorite phone or a phone you had. Be sure to comment below and tell me what phones you had back in the 2000s. What were your favorite phones? What phones did you want? I already shared mine with you, and maybe we'll do a part 2 of this, or maybe talk about 90s phones next time. Let me know what you want to see. If you love 90s and 2000s nostalgia, you are in the right place. Be sure to subscribe. You can follow me on my socials at Madi Hearts. They're always linked down below, and come back for our next nostalgic adventure.